health challenges, I made a public commitment that CPD would hold the individuals in that video fully responsible for their actions. I also made it very public that we would conduct a methodical investigation based upon the facts, including whether or not this incident would be considered a hate crime. Let me be very clear. The actions in that video are reprehensible. That, along with racism, have absolutely no place in the city of Chicago or anywhere else for that matter against anyone, regardless of their race, gender, state of mental health, or any other identifying factor. There was never a question whether or not this incident qualified to be investigated as a hate crime, but as I said yesterday, we need to base the investigation based on facts and not emotion. I'm pleased to announce that the investigation has concluded and charges have been approved by the Cook County State's Attorney for hate crimes, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated unlawful restraint, and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon against all 4 of the offenders in custody. 3 of the offenders have also been charged with residential burglary, and 1 of the offenders has also been charged with robbery and possession of a stolen motor vehicle. As police officers, we took an oath to be guardians of the peace, here to protect every citizen. Because of it, the offenders in this case were apprehended due to the good police work by 11 district officers you see standing behind me. And thankfully, the victim in this incident will recover from his injuries. Now I'm going to ask Area North Detective Commander Kevin Duffin to provide the timeline of the case. Kevin.
Good afternoon. Our victim in this case was dropped off on the 31st of December by his parents at a McDonald's in Streamwood, Illinois. He was to meet his friend there, Jordan Hill, who actually ends up being one of the offenders in this case. When he was dropped off, it was under the premise that he would be spending the night with his friend, so his parents naturally didn't look for him until the next day. They then subsequently report him missing in Streamwood. He comes to Chicago. He's at the McDonald's, and Jordan Hill goes and steals a van in Streamwood. He then picks up our victim, who has no knowledge that the van is stolen. He assumed it's Jordan's. They drive to the west side of Chicago, where they basically are driving around and visiting friends for the next 2 days. The victim sleeps in the van. On the morning of the 3rd of January, they go to the address on Lexington, which is where 2 of the other 3 offenders reside, the 2 sisters. And then about several hours later, that's when they bind him and start the assault on him. He is able to escape when a downstairs neighbor calls the police complaining that of all the noise upstairs. The police respond, and the 2 female offenders now go downstairs. They're angry that the police were called. They kick in the door of that apartment. Hence, they are both charged with the burglary. That gives our victim an opportunity to get out, and then he's observed walking down the street by our 11th district officers. Officer Michael Donnelly will explain how they happened upon him.
Thank you. Donnelly, D-O-N-N-E-L-L-Y. While at our call, we observed our victim. He was walking with Jordan Mills, at which time I observed him wearing a tank top inside out backwards with jean shorts and sandals on. He was bloodied, he was battered, and due to the cold weather conditions, I approached him for a field interview, at which time, after talking to him, he didn't seem like he was very discombobulated. He was injured, he was confused, and at which time I called an ambulance. I left him with 2 other officers, Officer Adamski and Officer Cronin, to continue my investigation. I left him with them, which revealed that he was missing and endangered out of Streamwood, Illinois. They contacted Streamwood Police and conducted an investigation, which revealed and put the pieces of the puzzle together for what we have right now.
Okay, we'll take questions now if you have any questions.
What do you understand the reason for the motive? What did the people tell the police why they did this?
It appears the fight on prior to him being bound, tied up, and assaulted, the victim tells us he got into a play fight with Jordan, and it escalated from there. The two female offenders then, who are obviously, I mean, you can see on video that they're smoking cigars, which we presume to be blunts. They then get aggravated at him, and that's when they tie him up, and that's the racial slurs and the, the deference to his mental capacity starts coming out. That's primarily one of the reasons that they were charged with the hate crime.
Was any premeditation in it, or did it just kind of escalate?
I believe it escalated. There was certainly no premeditation between Jordan and him when the initial fight broke out.
How he voted, whether that in any way influenced his being beaten, his being targeted for this?
No.
What is the relation between the Covington women? Are they sisters?
They are sisters, yes.
What was the initial connection between Jordan Hill and the victim?
They are acquaintances. They attended a school together in Aurora at some point. I don't know if it recently, but at some point.
Do they hang out often? Have they hung out before? Or any time in the near
They have hung out occasionally before, not frequently.
When was the last time he had any contact with any of them before today?
I can't answer. I'm not sure.
Okay. And there seems to be a little confusion. The victim's family is saying that when the police came, he was able to escape, and that's when they found him. So there seems to be a little confusion of what happened before he was seen walking on the street. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
The police are called. The two female offenders know that because apparently the downstairs neighbor came up and said, if you don't knock off the noise, I'm going to call the police. So they go downstairs, they're mad at her, they start kicking her door in, and that's when the police arrive. I believe your call was a damage to property? Criminal damage to property was the assignment. That's when he has his opportunity to get out.
What time was that?
About 5:15.
5:15.
Tuesday evening.
Tuesday evening.
What's the relationship of the four people who are charged?
Well, the two girls are sisters, and they're just acquaintances of the other two.
Now the bar,
No.
the bar for a hate crime is really high. What specifically are you guys looking at that really raises it to that?
Well, again, I mean, his diminished mental capacity, the fact that they tied him up, the obvious racial quotes that they post live on Facebook. I mean, taking the totality of the circumstances, the state's attorney agreed with us. I mean, we sought hate crime charges, and they agreed.
Just to be clear, was it, you had mentioned the mental capacity, was that the impetus, or was that the strong point of the hate crime, or was it the racial comments?
It's half a dozen of one, six of the other.
Do you have any insight into why they streamed this on Facebook Live? What was their motivation for, publicizing this as they did?
I can't understand why anybody puts anything on Facebook.
Can you confirm and describe the attempts the assailants made to extort money from or ransom from the victim's family? How did they make contact with the parents, or any details there?
No.
How was the
But there was an extortion attempt.
I'm not exactly positive on that. By the two detectives that have worked this case solid since Tuesday night, literally, I mean, they passed out this morning. They were so tired. And I didn't want to wake them up to ask them that question before I walked in here.
But there were some reports that there had been an extortion attempt.
Yes, but I don't know the exact circumstances behind it. So
Are the suspects saying anything about being sorry for doing
No.
Can you
One more, guys.
explain the residential burglary charge a little bit more?
I'm sorry?
Can you explain the residential burglary charge a little bit more?
When the downstairs neighbor told them, I'm going to call the police if you don't knock off all that noise, the two females came down and booted her door in. And they actually grabbed something as they were walking out. So hence, it's a forcible entry. Where a theft is concerned, it becomes a burglary.
How is the victim doing now? Is he hospitalized? Is he in his parents' custody?
He's in his parents' custody, presumably out at his residence.
He's not from Streamwood, he's from where?
Crystal Lake.
How long was he in that position, in that apartment?
It appears that he was in that physical position, tied up in the corner, for about 4 or 5 hours.
Last one?
And of course, the video just shows us a small window of time. Anything else that was happening to him? We see what's in that video, but what else has happened to him that perhaps we don't know about?
Well, we have no other video, but we have the statements of the 4 of them. I mean, they admit that they were beating him, kicking him. They made him drink toilet water. And then obviously the video where you're cutting a piece of his scalp.
Yesterday you said he might have been held hostage for 24 to 48 hours. Can you give us a better solid time frame of how long he was with them?
Well, he was with Mr. Jordan from last Friday. But you have to realize the first 2 days he's with him voluntarily. He's riding around in a van that he thinks is Jordan's. It's not until they get to the apartment on Lexington, and even then it's several hours later before the fight breaks out and they tie him in. So he was with them, or at least with Jordan, since Friday, but the actual assault and kidnapping and the crimes took place over probably a 6-hour period on the 3rd.
Friday or Saturday? His parents said they hadn't seen him since Saturday.
What was New Year's Eve? Saturday. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Saturday.
And
then you were saying-
offenders live there? Any of the offenders live in that particular apartment where?
The 2 females lived there, yes.
And then what day did you say the assault actually happened?
January 3rd.
Thanks, sir. So tomorrow, bond court's at 1 o'clock. Mug shots are online.
Okay. Wow. Here's the deal. This young man, this victim, was essentially dropped off at this McDonald's, and his friend, nice friend, picks him up in a stolen van, drives him around town for the next couple of days, ends up with these 2 other sisters in some apartment where they tie him up, scalp him, force him to drink toilet water. You heard the details there from that news conference, and it sounds like he was the hate crime charges. This is the key piece we were listening for, motivated both by racially motivated and also physically or mentally, because of his physically or mentally disabled, motivated by all of the above. Joey Jackson has been listening to this news conference with me, and he joins me live. So many thoughts, and then the fact that the sisters decided to commit another crime on their way out, burglarizing the woman downstairs.
You know, I have a couple of thoughts. The first is, as a person, where has humanity gone, and what are we doing with our young people? What could we do to set a better example so that this doesn't occur? From a legal perspective, Brooke, you know, the tenets of our justice system, there's really 3, right? There's punishment, there's deterrence, and there's rehabilitation. Certainly, I think that the degree of punishment, because of what was inflicted upon that victim, is going to be forthcoming for the defendants. But I think there's 2 other components. That is deterrence. You know, as technology burgeons and things are happening with technology that we haven't seen before. People are posing
Here I'm committing a crime, and I want to show everyone on Facebook.
And I think we'll see a legislative response to this as it happens more. As the law
hasn't caught up.
It has not. To keep up with this, I mean, how could this possibly be proper? But I think if something comes out of this that's good, and I always like to think and look at in something that's horrific what good can come, I think if we look at the deterrent value for other people to see this, to say and suggest it just isn't right, it shouldn't happen, so that other people don't do it, that's a deterrent. And the rehabilitative value, perhaps there's some redeeming quality in these 4 youths, these 18-year-old and this 24-year-old, and that'll be taken into consideration by the system. But it's just such a disturbing story to talk about, that a person can lack such humanity to engage in conduct like that, and that's why you have these significant charges that they're facing now.
Unreal. Unreal.
To say the least.
Joey, thank you.
Pleasure.
We'll stay on it.